Narrated by Abu at-Tufail. The above-mentioned statement of Ali. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Once Muad was along with Allah's Messenger, as a companion rider. Allah's Messenger said, "O Muad bin Jabal." Muad replied, "Labayk and Sadiq." "O Allah's Messenger." Again the Prophet said, "O Muad." Muad said thrice, "Labayk and Sadiq, O Allah's Messenger." Allah's Messenger said, "There is none who testifies sincerely that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah and Muhammad is his apostle, except that Allah will save him from the hellfire." Muad said, "O Allah's Messenger, should I not inform the people about it so that they may have glad tidings?" He replied, "When the people hear about it, they will solely depend on it." Then Muad narrated the above-mentioned hadith just before his death, being afraid of committing sin, by not telling the knowledge. Narrated by Anas. I was informed that the Prophet had said to Muad, "Whosoever will meet Allah without associating anything in worship with him will go to paradise." Muad asked the Prophet, "Should I not inform the people of this good news?" The Prophet replied, "No, I am afraid, lest they should depend upon it, absolutely." Narrated by Salama. Salam came to Allah's Messenger, and said, "Verily, Allah is not shy of telling you the truth. Is it necessary for a woman to take a bath after she has a wet dream, nocturnal sexual discharge?" The Prophet replied, "Yes, if she notices a discharge." Salama then covered her face and asked, "O Allah's Messenger, does a woman get a discharge?" He replied, "Yes, let your right hand be in dust," an Arabic expression you say to a person when you contradict his statement, meaning you will not achieve goodness, and that is why the son resembles his mother. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Once Allah's Messenger said, "Amongst the trees there is a tree, the leaves of which do not fall and is like a Muslim, tell me the name of that tree." Everybody started thinking about the trees of the desert areas, and I thought of the date palm tree but felt shy to answer. The others asked, "O Allah's Apostle, inform us of it." He replied, "It is the date palm tree." I told my father what had come to my mind, and on that he said, "Had you said it I would have preferred it to such and such a thing that I might possess." Narrated by Ali. I used to get the emotional urethral discharge frequently, so I requested al-Miqdad to ask the Prophet about it. Al-Miqdad asked him and he replied, "One has to perform ablution after it." Narrated by Nafi. Abdullah bin Umar said, "A man got up in the mosque and said, 'O Allah's Messenger, at which place you order us that we should assume the ihram?' Allah's Messenger replied, 'The residents of Medina should assure the ihram from Dhul Hulayfa, the people of Syria from al-Juhfa, and the people of Najd from Qarn.'" Ibn Umar further said, "The people consider that Allah's Messenger had also said, 'The residents of Yemen should assume ihram from Yalamlam.'" Ibn Umar used to say, "I do not remember whether Allah's Messenger had said the last statement or not." Narrated by Ibn Umar. A man asked the Prophet, "What kinds of clothes should a muhrim, a Muslim intending to perform Umrah or Hajj, wear?" He replied, "He should not wear a shirt, a turban, trousers, a head cloak or garment scented with saffron or wars, kinds of perfumes. And if he has no slippers, then he can use cuffs, socks made from thick fabric or leather, but the socks should be cut short so as to make the ankles bare." Narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's Messenger said, "The prayer of a person who does hadath, passes urine, stool or wind, is not accepted till he performs the ablution." A person from Hadramaut asked Abu Hurairah, "What is hadath?" Abu Hurairah replied, "Hadath means the passing of wind." Narrated by Nu'am al-Mujmir. Once I went up the roof of the mosque, along with Abu Hurairah. He performed ablution and said, "I heard the Prophet saying, 'On the day of resurrection, my followers will be called al-Ghur al-Mahajjalun from the trace of ablution, and whoever can increase the area of his radiance should do so, i.e. by performing ablution regularly." Narrated by Abad bin Tamim. My uncle asked Allah's Messenger about a person who imagined to have passed wind during the prayer. Allah's Apostle replied, "He should not leave his prayers unless he hears sound or smells something." Narrated by Qurayb. Ibn Abbas said, "The Prophet slept till he snored and then prayed, or probably lay till his breath sounds were heard and then got up and prayed. Ibn Abbas added, I stayed overnight in the house of my aunt, Maymunah, the Prophet, slept for a part of the night, and late in the night he got up and performed ablution from a hanging water skin, a light, perfect, ablution, and stood up for the prayer. I, too, performed a similar ablution, then I went and stood on his left. He drew me to his right and prayed as much as Allah wished, and again lay and slept till his breath sounds were heard. Later on the Muaddin, call-maker for the prayer, came to him and informed him that it was time for prayer. The Prophet went with him for the prayer without performing a new ablution. Sufyan said to Umar that some people said, the eyes of Allah's Messenger sleep but his heart does not sleep. Umar replied, I heard Ubad bin Umar saying that the dreams of prophets were divine inspiration, and then he recited the verse, I, Abraham, see in a dream, O my son, that I offer you in sacrifice, to Allah. Narrated by Usama bin Zaid. Allah's Messenger proceeded from Arafat till when he reached the mountain pass, he dismounted, urinated and then performed ablution but not a perfect one. I said to him, is it the time for the prayer, O Allah's Messenger? He said, the place of prayer is ahead of you. He rode till when he reached al-Muzdalifah, he dismounted and performed ablution and a perfect one, the call for Iqamah was pronounced and he led the Maghrib prayer. Then everybody made his camel kneel down at its place. Then the Iqamah was pronounced for the Isha prayer which the Prophet led, and no prayer was offered in between the two prayers, Isha and Maghrib. Narrated by Atta bin Yashar. Ibn Abbas performed ablution and washed his face, in the following way, he ladled out a handful of water, rinsed his mouth and washed his nose with it by putting in water and then blowing it out. He then took another handful of water, and did like this, gesturing, joining both hands, and washed his face, took another handful of water and washed his right forearm. He again took another handful of water and washed his left forearm, and passed with hands over his head and took another handful of water and poured it over his right foot, up to his ankles, and washed it thoroughly, and similarly took another handful of water and washed thoroughly his left foot, up to the ankles, and said, I saw Allah's Messenger performing ablution in this way.